Hey everyone, I'm feeling extremely excited to be able to interview the extraordinary Kathryn Lefroy. Kathryn is the author of the very popular middle grade book, Alex and the Alpacas Saves the World. She is talented in so many things as well as writing and creating amazing characters, including business, marketing, costume design, and art. This book features a strong female lead who can communicate with the magical and hilarious alpacas. Alex, the main character, is on a quest to save the world from total annihilation. I believe that Kathryn is a strong inspirational author because of her strong female lead and her amazing storytelling talent. She's definitely an inspiration to young writers and readers. Kathryn, thanks so much for letting me grill you. Are you ready to get started?
I am. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I think I need you on like my PR team or something. Just, say nice things about me. This is great. Perfect.
Starting off with the most random and off-topic question to kick things off.
Right.
If you could live in any dance movie at all, which one would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. Okay. First of all, I love dance movies more than life itself. So that is a very hard question. I actually don't think I could choose one. I'd have to pick several. And when we say dance movies, I think we can broaden the genre a little bit to like anything with singing and dancing, right? Like
Yes.
anything. Yeah.
Anything.
Anything with singing and dancing. I wish I could go through life singing and dancing because I think it would just make things so much better. But look, here's a couple of my favorites in no particular order, and I would take bits of all of them. Again, no particular order. Okay, Bring It On, which is like a cheerleader movie because I think I secretly wanted to be a cheerleader. I love that movie. The cheers are really fun, so you could watch it for that. Burlesque is sort of a dancey, singy movie that has like really cool music. What else is there? Pitch Perfect. For the a cappella singing and like the mashups. Yep, love that. Step Up to the Streets. I love the choreography in that one. Center Stage is a great ballet movie. And then going a bit old school, Fame, the original Fame from the 80s, I guess it was. I love that movie. I remember my dad showed me that movie when I was a kid, and that was like the first dance movie I ever saw, and that really started my love affair with dance movies. But I'm actually writing a dance movie at the moment as well, so I'm just trying to put it in every aspect of my life, singing and dancing.
Yes, I've actually heard a bunch of those. Now, on with this amazing book, which I adore. I totally relate to the alpacas because of their bad memory and their constant need to eat. That's me in a nutshell. What character do you relate to the most in this book?
Look, it really depends on the day. Sometimes I feel like I'm Grandpa Jacob because I'm just like a curmudgeonly old man most of the time. Other times I feel like I'm Olin, which is one of the alpacas who is the most forgetful and the most hungry. So like you, I'm also quite forgetful and hungry all of the time. If I'm not eating, I'm thinking about what I'm going to be eating next. Yeah. And then also, I guess, a little bit of Alex as well, because she, as a writer yourself, that that you can't help writing characters with like a little bit of yourself in them all of the time. So I think Alex's stubbornness definitely comes from personal experience. But also I would hope her ability to ask for help when she needs it. That's something I've learned over the years, that it's okay to ask for help when you need it. In fact, it's actually a really good thing to do because it makes life a lot easier.
Definitely. I'm definitely quite stubborn too. Sorry, I definitely relate to that part of Alex. I'm stubborn when I want to be. Otherwise, I'm quite outgoing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I
need to ask.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like I can be a very pleasant person, but I can also be very stubborn when I believe in something.
Yeah, and then you're just like, nope, I can do this. I can do it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I noticed quite a lot of undertones of sexism throughout the book and was delighted with the way Alex dealt with this. Was it always your goal of the book to have this underlying message for kids to learn about, or not so much?
Look, I don't think I go into anything thinking I want to write something with a message. Like, I love good stories. I like things that make you turn the page. I like things that draw you in and don't let you go. So I don't start any story thinking, oh, I must have a message in this, or I must tell kids to do X, Y, Z. Like, I don't think that's a successful way of storytelling. Saying that, I think a lot of the sort of sexism bits in there are things that I've experienced in my life, and stories that I've heard from other women and other girls of things that they've experienced in their life. Often people, I don't know if it's the case so much anymore, but like, people assuming you can't do something because you're a girl, for example. It's like, well, sorry, I can do anything I want, So I think it really comes more from experience and anecdotes of other people rather than setting out to write a book with a message.
Yes. Yes. And that's actually still happening. Like, there's actually a lot of it in my Scout group, as well as in some movies that are still around, and also some games that are still around. So it's still quite out there, which I think is really
horrible. Yeah, it's not good. I get heartened when I talk to like a lot of young girls and young women these days, and they don't struggle with the same things that maybe I did when I was in like primary school, for example, or high school or whatever. So I think it's getting better, but I think we still have a way to go. And definitely stories and books and movies are a way of turning a lens on ourselves and our society and just saying, hey, you know what, we can actually do better than
this. Yeah, I definitely think we have come a long way from where it used to be, but there is still quite a heap to go towards complete equality.
Yes, totally.
How long did it take to write Alex and the Alpacas Save the World?
Oh, this is a very embarrassing answer, actually. So, perfectly honest, it took me 7 years because I had never written a book before. So this is my first book. I didn't know how to write a book. I'd never done a creative writing degree. I'd always sort of dabbled with writing, but I'd never sort of, I'd never had any formal training, I suppose. And so I sat down back in 2011 or something, I can't even remember when it was now, and I thought, I'm going to write a book. And I thought, this is going to be so easy. And so I wrote the first draft, and I was like, wow, that was like not that painful. And then I didn't realize that like writing isn't really about writing, it's more about like rewriting and editing. And so then I spent the next sort of 7 years basically rewriting and editing and rewriting and editing. And honestly, I learned so much along the way. I would not change that experience for anything. I think it really, it's made me a better writer, and it's made me a faster writer because I did it the hard way, I guess. So the next book that I've just finished only took 2 years, which is better. So I'm hoping that the next one will maybe only take like 1.5 years or a year or something. I'd like to be able to get to the point where I'm writing a book a year.
Well, I admire the determination to publish this book, because
thanks.
It's incredible. It's definitely worth, I think, all of those 7 years of learning.
Oh, I mean, there's definitely the stubbornness that comes back, and I don't know. Like, I did write other things in between. So I wrote some screen stuff, and I wrote, part of my job is writing for writing articles about technology. So I was writing in between, but I just really believed in this story, and I really thought, I wrote a story that I wanted to read, basically. I didn't write like a book for kids, but I wrote a story that I was like, my 10-year-old self or 12-year-old self or whatever, she would want to read this book. So that's sort of what kept me going, a sort of a stubbornness and just a belief in, a belief that I had something. And I don't know if this is a question coming up later, but I got rejected from about 50 agents before I got this book published. So yeah. So I had a lot of people telling me no.
Well, I
and
think
I
it
just
is
didn't
an
listen to them.
amazing book.
Thank
And
you.
those
I mean, it's
agents are missing out on being able to say that they published this book.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's actually not uncommon to get rejected from that many agents, but it is still sort of astonishing.
It's still like, oh, it's
Yeah,
not good
yeah,
enough. It's still really heart-wrenching.
yeah. And I think if I didn't have that sort of, again, that determination, that stubbornness, and that belief in the story, I would have just given up. I would have just been like, oh, well, it's no good. It's, it's rubbish. I'll just give up and, I don't know, do something else.
Stubbornness does have its perks.
It definitely does.
I love the elements of symbolism throughout the story, like the olive tree for forgiveness and the literal elements used too. Where did you get the inspiration for the elements used in the binding ceremony? Without giving away too many spoilers for those who haven't read it yet.
Yeah, so without giving away too many spoilers, look, I drew a lot on like classic sort of adventure stories on this. So for people who've read it and for people who are going to read it, you'll see that there are a lot of nods to sort of like classic adventure stories. I'm drawing a lot from like mythology and history and that sort of thing. So I guess that's where I got my inspiration from, just, the adventure and fantasy genres as a whole. Again, I don't want to give too much away, but I suppose I really got inspiration from when I was in Tasmania. That's where I got the idea for the book, which the book is set in Tasmania. And so the farm that I was staying on there, when I got the idea for the book, a lot of the bits and pieces of the mystery sort of felt like they were in the farm. So it actually, I don't know, it all sort of came to me at once, if that makes sense. Like I just had everything sort of came to me at once, and I thought, oh, this could be a good story. And of course, it took me 7 years to actually get it right. But it was a combination, I suppose, of the classic adventure fantasy genre and the location where the story's set.
I think that's pretty cool. Oh, I also loved the alpacas. I've actually met an alpaca before, and it was such a funny story, right? It was on my sister's 17th birthday, and the alpaca spit in her face.
God. Happy birthday!
It was like a little surprise. She just had like a huge gunk of chewed up grass on her face.
Oh, gross. Oh, well, that's a memorable birthday, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, I loved every single element, and I was like, oh, now that makes sense. And I was like, oh, yes, I love the olive tree. And I'm like, yes, I could definitely see how you drew on the mythology of everything. Definitely I think it was the Greek mythology around the olive tree.
Yeah, there's a bit of Greek mythology. There's a bit of sort of like Incan and South American mythology that I've drawn in as well. Like I wanted to make it not too specific to sort of any culture or any location. I just sort of pulled in a bit from everywhere and made it up. Yep, exactly. Yep. World building,
bit of that mythology. Boom.
Yep.
Done.
Exactly.
I know this is a hard question, but what was your favorite scene to write out of this book?
Oh gosh. Do you know my favorite scene to write? And I don't necessarily think it's the best scene. And again, I can't really tell you exactly what it is without sort of giving too much away, but it's towards the end of the book. It's sort of after the big climax. It's a very, very short scene that involves the Tasmanian tigers. And I wrote it just before the book went to publication. So I was working with Kate at Fremantle Press on edits, and she said, I think we need something just here. And I was like, oh, aren't we done with this story already? Like I was, I'd rewritten it for 7 years, so I was a bit over it. And I don't know, the scene just came out. It was like the first draft of the scene. I don't think it really changed that much, and it was a pleasure to write, whereas a lot of the other scenes, it's kind of like trying to bang a square peg into a round hole. You're like, oh, I know I need it to do this, and then I just can't make it work. So
Yeah.
I can't really tell you too much about it without giving it away, but it's sort of towards the end with the Tasmanian tigers. Yeah.
I think I loved that scene in the book. I thought it was pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know, it just sort of rounded out their journey a
Yeah.
little bit, and yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you have those scenes where you're like, oh, can I please stop writing? I just want it to be published. And then it's just those scenes that just blow out, like just perfect poetry.
Yeah. And then other scenes that, I absolutely loved writing earlier on, obviously didn't make it into the book because a lot of stuff got cut, and there was a whole in the very first versions of this book, there was a whole backstory where she was at school and she was getting bullied at school, and all of that came out. But they were really fun scenes to write as well.
Yeah, that's a shame when the fun scenes to write get cut. It's like I had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, but I think as well that is something that you get better at doing, like letting go of killing the darlings, basically. Like it's letting go of the bits that you love, because you know that they're not in service to the story that you want to tell. And you know what? You'll find somewhere else to put them. Like, honestly,
Exactly.
keep everything. And in 5-10 years time, you'll be like, oh my gosh, do you know what this story needs? This needs a bullying scene. And you can,
exactly.
not copy and paste it. Yeah. But you take inspiration from what you've done before.
Definitely. As well as all your other talents, you are a screenwriter too. How is screenwriting different to novel writing, and do you prefer one over the other?
Well, in terms of preference, it really depends on what day of the week you ask me, because it changes daily, because they are, like, novel writing and screenwriting are quite different. The biggest difference, or sort of the easiest way to describe it, I suppose, is a screenplay is a roadmap for a director to create a visual story. So the screenplay is not the finished product, whereas a novel is the finished product. So what you see is what you get, whereas a screenplay, I could finish it, I could be in love with it, and then I could give it to a director, and they might interpret it slightly differently, or they might think, actually, I'm going to have the character do this, this, and this. So in some ways, screenwriting is sort of easier because it's not the finished product. In other ways, screenwriting is harder because it's very, like, most of the stuff I write is quite commercial. So it's very focused on, like, structure and hitting the right beats and getting, set up, build, payoff, set up, build, payoff. So it's making sure you can get everything in the right order. Look, novel writing is the same, but again, that's the finished product. So you just have to make sure everything is, like, perfect. I enjoy both of them, to be honest. I think doing both of them has made me better at both of them. So I think learning structure from a screenplay perspective certainly makes me a better novelist. And I would actually recommend to anyone starting out on, like, a novel writing journey, check out a couple of sort of screenwriting structure books, because that will really help you build your story into something that people want to read.
That sounds awesome. Thank you so much for that. I had no idea how different they were. I actually thought they were quite similar. That's probably because I don't know a single thing about screenwriting.
It's very so you look at a screenplay page and there's a lot of white space on it.
Yeah, there's like a lot of blank.
Yeah, so you're not putting a lot of description in. You might put like a line or two of description, and then it's dialogue. So you have to be very good at dialogue to write screenplays. And I think, you have to be good at dialogue to write books as well. But in screenplays, obviously the bit that you're hearing is the dialogue.
Yeah, that's probably where I would not be that best at screenplay. When it comes to, I'm good at dialogue, but I'm better at I think I'm better at description, at least. That's probably my strongest part.
Well, it's all about practice, right? I'm sure
Exactly.
I know the first screenplay I wrote was rubbish. As you know, the first draft of Alex I wrote was rubbish, and you just keep chipping
Exactly.
away at it and learn and get better. Yep, it's like any craft. There's no, I believe there is no such thing as a creative genius, and I know people will take me to task for that, but I think you get better at things the more you do them. So I don't know that anyone is born a brilliant writer. I think with stubbornness, there we go, stubbornness comes up again. With stubbornness and determination and the willingness to learn, then you can become good at, well, pretty much anything you want.
That's great advice. Now we are into the speed questions.
All right.
10 seconds over.
Right. Do I need to like limber up or something, or
I don't know. do what you feel will help.
Okay.
There's also a bonus question in here for you.
Oh, okay. All
Is
right.
there a second Alex and the Alpacas coming?
There is, yeah.
Yes. It's gonna be good.
But it's still a little while off, so
I know, but I have
temper the excitement a little bit. Yeah, I'd definitely
be good though. I know it is because of the first one. What are you writing at the moment besides this second Alex and the Alpacas book?
So besides the second Alex and the Alpacas book, I've got a screenplay in the works called Whale Shark Jack, which is a like live action family film. And I've got another middle grade book that I've just finished that's with my agent in New York, and they're going to try and sell it over there in a couple of months.
Ooh, that's very exciting. What is your favorite ice cream flavor? This is very traditional.
Passion fruit.
Oh, I've never tried that before.
Well, it's very hard to get. So often I don't have ice cream because no one has passion fruit, but the places that have passion fruit, oh, try it. Delicious.
Which book character do you or have you had a crush on?
That is a tough question. Do you know, I think I get crushes more on like books as a whole rather than the characters in it. And I think, let me think, my most recent book crush would be, it's a YA novel called Red, White and Royal Blue. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
No, it's fabulous. It's like a gay love story between the president of the United States' son and like a Prince Harry type character. Anyway, it's just delightful. It's
I'm
like
adding that to my wish
to our
list.
times. Yeah,
I love queer stories, especially the romance.
It's delightful. It's very romantic. It does have some quite steamy scenes in it, so just be warned.
I'll get my sister to do the notebook, do the sticky notes again. I'll get my sister to do
I think that's a good idea. I think there's 3 or 4 quite steamy scenes, but it's just glorious. I love it. So that's my book crush, I suppose.
What was your worst subject in school?
My worst subject at school, this is such a cliche, but it was actually maths. But then when I was doing my PhD many years later, I had to learn statistics and structural equation modeling, and I grew to love maths. So just because you don't like something or don't think you're good at it at school doesn't mean you won't find a way into it later in life. Because I was just like, who knew maths could be so interesting? It was fascinating. So it probably has a lot to do with the teachers you have as well.
Yeah. Like, I have a pretty awesome teacher, but yeah.
I think that helps.
Still really don't like maths. Like, it's just personally, I just don't think maths likes me.
That's what I always thought. And then honestly, when I found an entry point into it that made sense for me, it was like, honestly, it was like someone lifted the veil from my eyes, and I was like, it was like an epiphany moment, you know? It was like, maths, who knew?
Fingers crossed that happens to me.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Who was your favorite or most inspirational author?
Oh gosh, we were talking about this earlier before we started recording, and it's very hard to define one favorite author. But I would actually have to say the most inspirational author. It's actually many authors. It's all of the people I know who are writers as well, and they just inspire me on a daily basis. Like the fact that we keep going back to words on a page and just trying to make them better, I think it's inspiring.
Do you prefer reading ebooks or hard books?
Ebooks. Controversial, I know. I know,
Okay,
I'm the worst.
I forgive you. Right.
But can I qualify that? Am I allowed to qualify that? Number one, I like to read in bed, and I find like books sometimes are quite heavy. So I like an ebook because I can prop it on a pillow. Also, I move a lot. I'm never in one place for very long. And so it's heartbreaking having to like pack up my bookshelf every single time. Whereas if I have an e-reader, I can take all my books with me and they don't weigh 50 kilos. So that's why I love ebooks. Can we still be friends?
You have some good reasons why you like them.
Okay, thank you.
I forgive you.
Thank you.
What's the weirdest place or thing you got inspiration from for your writing?
The weirdest place or thing I got inspiration from for my writing. Okay, one year, many years ago, I was writing an article about competitive nail decorating. And so I went to a conference in Las Vegas where, I'm not kidding, people from all over the world were doing like competitive nail decorating. And I do mean like nails. Yeah. So there were competitions for like doing nails. And it was one of the most astonishing things I've witnessed in my life. And I've not used any of it in a story yet, but I'm like saving it up for something. I don't know what, but something.
Please do. That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
It was amazing.
I've never heard of that before.
Neither had I. And then I wrote an article about it and I was like, this is incredible.
Do you remember the first book you ever read? Or if not, what's your favorite childhood book you love to read?
The first book I ever read like on my own was called The Owl Who Was Afraid of the Dark. And I remember being like extremely proud of myself that I'd read, I guess it's a chapter book, that I'd read like this book on my own. Well done me. But my favorite book from as a kid, and actually one of my favorite books still today, is The Wolves of Willoughby Chase. It's a really fun adventure story.
Well, they both sound awesome, especially the first one. It sounded so cute.
It was very cute. It's young. I can't remember how old I was when I read it, but yeah, I do remember being like pretty chuffed with myself, you know?
Well, it's a proud moment when you read your first book. It's like,
yeah.
What do you see as your biggest achievement so far in life? Doesn't have to be about writing.
Oh God, still being alive? I don't know. This question stumped me. My biggest achievement so far, I don't know. Hopefully it hasn't happened yet. There you go.
Good. Do you have any advice to share with young writers?
Yes. I touched on it before, but basically it's don't give up. I know everyone says that to you and you're like, yeah, but there's only so much I can take. I get it. I totally get it. There have been points in my career where I've just been like, stuff this, I'm going to quit and become an accountant or something. But it really is worth it. It's about perseverance, and it's about tenacity and, again, stubbornness. And it's just about keeping on chipping away, just don't give up, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it, because you can. Like, anyone can become a great storyteller.
Beautiful advice. Thank you very much for letting me interview you. This was such a good interview.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. It was so fun.
And thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to check out Kathryn on social media and like and share this so we can share her amazing book.
Oh gosh, look at that. You've done that before, haven't you?
Yes.